this is Lady Boulay, and I hope you're having a wonderful day. Thank you for your support. Thank you for subscribing to the channel. Thank you for your thumbs up, for your comments, and thank you for sharing the videos. Thank you for all you do to support the channel. And yes, we are commanded to love one another, whether we want to or not, or whether we agree with each other or not. And that includes the African-American descendant of slavery, Timothy Eugene Soctt, presently a sitting senator from the state of South Carolina, and apparently hoping that he's going to be selected by the Republican nominee for president to be the vice president. So some of y'all have asked me to speak on Tim Soctt. If making a public spectacle of yourself in hopes of getting somewhere, in hopes of getting ahead, was a person, Tim Soctt would be that person. Tim Soctt, to me, epitomizes the saying, it is better to keep silent and be thought a fool than to speak and remove all doubt. Tim Soctt, in the last few months, has really shown what people do when they're desperate. He has a good job, a respectable job as a senator from the great state of South Carolina. That's not good enough. He wanted to be president. He ran a horrible campaign and basically humiliated himself before he finally got out of the race, but not before standing before the public with somebody that was supposed to be his girlfriend and telling everybody he's in love, I guess. That didn't move the needle as far as Republican voters were concerned. So he went ahead and dropped out of a race that he shouldn't have been in the first place. And so it appeared that he would go back and be a senator and do the best job he could of being a senator, which is following the Republican agenda, as he had been doing. So either Tim Soctt is completely clueless or somebody has fooled him into thinking that he can become something bigger in American politics than a senator. Because he has hit us with two more surprises lately, one as ridiculous as the other.
I will love a woman. Now listen to what yo. Hey!
So if you were hoping for a romantic shot at Tim Soctt, you're out of luck. He's off the market. He is engaged to the young lady he introduced back during his failed campaign as Mindy Nose. So Miss Mindy Nose is a divorcee with 3 children. So he's got that ready-made family that America loves in politicians. So Tim Soctt is engaged. And really, she's not a bad-looking woman considering. I'm not sure which one of them is the catch, but he is engaged. And that did come as something of a surprise. But we all know if you want to get ahead in American politics, you need to have a wife. It does not matter what everybody thinks, or you don't believe in it, or it's modern times and that's old-timey. Well, not in American politics. So he has at least made an attempt to cross that hurdle. Timothy Eugene Soctt is engaged. So him getting engaged as a 58-year-old bachelor, never been engaged before, never been married, never showed up with a girlfriend before now, shows that he's pretty ambitious about whatever it is he's hoping to do. So this was the first surprise. Tim Soctt engaged to be married.
President, we need a president who will unite our country We need Donald Trump. We need a president who will protect your Social Security and my mama's Social Security. We need Donald Trump. We need a president today who will stop the crime and recklessness in the streets. We need a president who will restore law and order. We need Donald Trump. Oh.
So this was the second surprise. Tim Sockt endorsing Donald Trump. Tim Sockt from South Carolina, who was appointed senator from South Carolina in 2012 by Governor at that time, Nikki Haley. And that is why some people, including some black people, are side-eyeing Tim Sockt. Nikki Haley is the one that got him to where he is now. Now, I'm sure the Republican Party approved it or encouraged her to do it. But the fact remains, she is the one that appointed him senator from South Carolina. Now, I want to add this little bit. In the last day, 3 black content creators have come out with this information from the Pew Research Center. It says the black population has grown by more than 10 million since 2000, when 36.2 million of the U.S. population identified as black, marking a 32% increase over roughly 2 decades. So that means they've added 10 million to our population. So instead of being 36 million, they say it's 46 million. Well, I'm going to say it's larger than that. The reality is they have never counted us correctly. They have never given us credit for the numbers that we have. Even during the slavery days, the enslaved population in South Carolina was larger than the white population. So my question has always been, where did all those black people go? Now, what does that have to do with South Carolina today? Well, in 2010, the Republican senator from South Carolina, Jim DeMint, was challenged by a black Democrat named Alvin Green. Alvin Green didn't have any infrastructure. They say he had been in jail. He hadn't done any campaigning to amount to anything. And he gained 27.7% of the vote. So that's really almost 30%. So that was very threatening to the Republicans because the Democrats hadn't put any real money in there. Nobody even knew who Alvin Green was. He had no kind of infrastructure, and he still got almost 30% of the vote. And they say, well, Jim DeMint got 61 point something percent. But the reality is, Jim DeMint had money, he had an infrastructure, and he had the Republican machine behind him in a Republican state. So, to make a long story short, it was threatening for a non-starter such as Alvin Green to get almost 30% of the vote in South Carolina, which means that if they had done some real campaigning and the Democrats had put some real money into it, South Carolina would have been very competitive. So, in 2012, Jim DeMint retired and they appointed Tim Sockt. And that took care of the black senator from South Carolina. And I believe that Tim Sockt was the one they chose because he was going to be the yes guy. He was going to be just the person that he is now. They picked a good Negro who was going to do exactly what they told him to do.
Did you ever think that she actually appointed you, Tim? And think of it. Appointed, and you're the senator of his state, and she endorsed me. You must really hate her. No, it's a shame. It's a shame.
I just love you.
Now, we really should feel sorry for a black man that desperate. Raise your hand if you feel sorry for him. Don't raise your hand if you don't. This is an article from the Palmer Report, and it says, "This is just embarrassing for Tim Sockt." Republican Senator Tim Sockt ran an embarrassingly weak campaign for president in 2024 gained no traction and had to drop out a long time ago. You'd think that would be enough embarrassment for him. Yeah, you would think so. But no, Soctt really seems to want to humiliate himself. Tim Soctt has endorsed Donald Trump, as have a lot of other terrible Republicans. But Tim Soctt took things even further by appearing on stage with Trump in New Hampshire tonight. Trump told Soctt that he must really hate Nikki Haley. Trump responded, "I just love you." This is a misprint. Trump didn't say he loved Tim Soctt. When Trump told him that he must hate Nikki Haley, Tim Soctt said, "I just love you." Which I just really. That's right. A United States Senator from South Carolina just got up on stage and told Donald Trump in public that he loves him. And it wasn't even Lindsey Graham. This is just so embarrassing for Tim Soctt, who seems to have given up a long time ago and really should have given up and gone home. But people think that he's eyeing the vice presidency, and he thinks by sucking up to Donald Trump and licking Trump's behind that that's going to get him a place on the consideration list for vice president. Donald Trump exhibits a lot of characteristics, but weakness is not one of them. Tim Soctt doesn't even realize that he's coming off as a weak wimp, and Donald Trump is most likely going to pick some white man who is tough like he is, yet someone who will go along with what he's trying to do. And if he picks a black man, it would be more likely to be Ben Carson than Tim Soctt. But I don't believe he's going to pick either one of them. Donald Trump is reported to have said that he would not trust a black man with his money. Now, if he wouldn't trust a black man with his money, do you think that he would trust a black man with this country in the event that he had to go to jail, for instance? Do you think he would trust a black man to run this country? I don't think so. And furthermore, it is very insensitive, and I don't know what you call the word that you would use to describe his attitude toward Nikki Haley. Regardless to why she appointed him a senator from South Carolina, she did it. And he stood up and endorsed Donald Trump, knowing good and well Donald Trump is no better candidate than Nikki Haley for real, and maybe not even as good. So I agree with Mark Lamont Hill. The minimum that he could have done was to sit it out and not endorse anybody. Early on, when he called himself running for president, they had what they call, I think they call it a dossier, where they have private information about you. So it could be that somebody has said, well, we really need you to go out there and endorse Donald Trump because, we've got this file on you. It could be that. Or he honestly thinks that he has a chance of being picked for vice president. It could be that. At any rate, it goes beyond unscrupulous. Can you just sometimes tell people, no, I'm not going to do it? But seeing how happy he was up on that stage with Donald Trump, I can't believe that anybody was twisting his arm or threatening him to make him get up there and do that. He wanted to be up there on that stage, which means he really doesn't have a deep moral center, because were it not for Nikki Haley, he wouldn't even be a senator in a position to be up there. Maybe we should feel sorry for him, and maybe feeling sorry is not the right word, maybe compassion. But for me, Tim Soctt needs to get somewhere and sit down. That's just what I think about Tim Soctt. If he doesn't want to be the senator from South Carolina, go home and take care of his mama and let that be it, because he's just making himself look worse and worse. But what say you? Thank you for listening. Subscribe to the channel, give me a thumbs up, leave a comment, share the video, and as always, have a great day.